Everyone makes mistakes when they start their freelance writing career, but some of the most common ones you don't have to make, and I'll explain why. But do me a favor, stick around for that last tip because it's a good one. What's up, guys? My name's Tom Scalisi, and today we're going to go over the most common things that people do wrong when they start their freelance writing business. A lot of them, they are a ripple effect, and if you don't get it off on the right foot, it's something that you're going to be dealing with for a long time. So I want to go ahead and just go over those so you don't have to deal with it. But listen, unlike some of these other writing gurus and copywriting teachers or whatever else are out there that are selling courses and coaching courses and things like that, I don't have any of that. I do all of this just because I want to spread the word, and you can pay me by hitting that subscribe button down bottom. I'd really appreciate that. Let's get into this. All right, the most common mistake that so many people make when they start their freelance writing career is they try to work for free or for very, very little money. And there are a lot of those gurus that I was talking about preaching this, approaching people and saying, hey, I'll do this for free for you. Now, there's a problem with this. If you work for free, your client's never going to take you seriously. And, I'm going to tell you, if you approach me with doing something free for me, I'm not going to take you seriously or think you're even that good at it, which means that you may not even really get your foot in the door, even though these guys think that this is the way to go ahead and introduce yourself to people. I don't think there's any value in it, and it just starts the whole relationship off on the wrong foot. Now, here's the thing. This does work if you're able to get your foot in the door and work for them. If you have an agreement with them that they know you're going to raise your rates considerably once you start working with them regularly. And that's a really, really hard sell. Like, hey, I'm going to do this for free, and then I'm going to jack my price up on you. That's not something a lot of people are going to want to line up for. My suggestion, be humble, but don't be an idiot. You have to understand your niche, or however you want to say it, and charge accordingly. You want to be paid for your time fairly. You don't want to work for free and just start the whole relationship off on the wrong foot. If you need help figuring out what your ideal niche is, I will link that in the description below, but watch the rest of this video because there's a lot of good advice. The second thing, not getting two contacts. So this is kind of something that, I know this is a first year video, but this is something that I screwed up recently. When you start a new relationship with a client, you need to get two contacts. You need to get whoever your main contact is, which is probably like a lead editor or a marketing manager or somebody like that. And you need preferably their boss's contact information as well. Now, let me tell you why you need to. There are going to be times when you have questions and you're going to need an answer before you can start your work. And if you don't get that answer, you're either going to be late on that work or you're going to have to move on to something else and adjust your entire timeline. That's not ideal. Also, for me personally, I just dealt with a client who took a month and a half to pay me, and it pissed me off tremendously because they basically went completely dark on me and I couldn't get a hold of them. I didn't know if they got fired. I didn't know where they were, what was going on. The truth of the matter is that there was a takeover at their company, and that once everything was back under control, they did reach out to me and pay my bill. But it pissed me off because they didn't talk to me the entire time. So I ended up going on LinkedIn and trying to find their manager and trying to reach out to other people at the company. And it was just a disaster because it was a decent sized invoice and I needed to get paid. If I had had two contacts from the start, I wouldn't have had this issue because somebody probably would have told me like, hey, we're in the middle of a big change and we can't pay that invoice right now, but we'll get to you as soon as we can. I would have liked to have known that. I wouldn't have stressed out as much, and that's something I think you guys should learn from. So definitely get two contacts anytime you start with a new client. All right, the number 3 biggest mistake that people make, in my opinion, is they don't start a blog when they start their freelance writing career. Now, not starting a blog while you're trying to become a freelance writer is kind of like trying to sell cars without having a dealership. No, people aren't usually buying blog posts off the lot, but if you don't have a place like a blog to showcase your talents, it's very hard to get any clients and it's very hard to make any sales. So you need to start a blog. The other part is, unless you're managing your client's blog, you normally don't have access to the data associated with your blog posts. So, if you want to know if a new technique that you're trying out or, something is working, you don't usually have that data. Unless you're into their WordPress, you're not going to get that. But if you have your own blog, when you try out new techniques and new types of articles, you can see how those are showing up on the internet because you're going to have unrestricted access to your own data. And that's a big mistake and something that a lot of people miss when they start their freelance writing career, and it does set them back. So I would say you definitely need to start your own blog and, take a look at the data and get to know what's working and what's not. All right, number 4, the most common mistake that people make when they start their freelance writing career is they don't promote themselves enough. Freelance writers don't promote themselves enough. They don't publish their articles on social nearly enough, and they just don't bring awareness to their own brand, and they really need to. My suggestion is you need to get good at 2 social media platforms, one of which needs to be LinkedIn, and the other is any other platform that you're getting good at. It's just, there's so many platforms, it's just hard to get good at all of them at once. So I suggest getting good at 2, one of which is LinkedIn. I really dislike LinkedIn. I don't like to spend much time on there. The truth is that I think that I get bombarded with a lot of crap, and also people are using LinkedIn to get very, very personal these days. And to be very honest with you, I don't really care about a lot of the things that people share on LinkedIn. But it is important because that's where a lot of your potential clients are, and you need to be where your clients are. So definitely get on LinkedIn, definitely get it good on another social platform, and share and promote your stuff there on those platforms. I'm telling you, it's important. All right, the 5th mistake that everybody makes when they start their freelance writing career is they don't niche down, or they don't niche down soon enough. So you need a niche because you need to become an expert in something. And if you're spreading your expertise across 50 different niches, you're not building any expertise with Google. Google doesn't know who you are, what you're an expert in. So my suggestion is to niche down to 2 or 3 niches to start. Pick 2 or 3 things that you are good at, that you know a lot about, and even if you don't think they're going to pay a lot, just go ahead and specialize in those niches. And the reason why is because the better you are in a niche, the faster you can write it, the more work you can take on, and you'll be able to make a lot more money regardless. Now, the other thing is you have to understand that at some point, even generalists are sort of forced to niche down because Google will start to lock on to 1 or 2 things that they're writing about, and Google will pick exactly what that niche is going to be. And if you're being forced to niche down, don't you want to be the one who chooses what that niche is? So in my opinion, you need to niche down from the start, 2 or 3 different niches, pick them out, whatever you enjoy writing about that you can write a lot about and write quickly about, those are the ones to go with. And like I said, I have a whole video about this listed below, so go ahead. Hey, by the way, hit that like button, all right? That's a huge help. You have no idea. All right, the 6th biggest mistake that new writers make is that they're not persistent and they don't follow up enough. I can't stress this enough. It is always, when you're pitching, it is always a numbers game. Or even if you're filling out applications, it is always a numbers game. And you need to be persistent and you need to follow up and, even be consistent with the amount of stuff that you're applying for or reaching out for. In fact, I can tell you firsthand that I had some holes in my schedule this year and I wanted to fill them. I didn't have enough work on the plate and I wanted to make sure that I had enough so I didn't end up in some financial strife. So I started a campaign where I chose a bunch of software companies that I wanted to reach out to and work for. And every day I reached out to a set amount of them. And I found out for me that out of every 10 times that I reached out, I got a job. So I landed 1 job for every 10 clients I reached out to. And for me, that probably sounds fantastic. The reality is that I have an extensive body of work, so I can really pitch myself. But for newer clients, it might be 20 or 30 people that they have to reach out to before they even hear anything back. And if you're not being persistent and you're not trying to get a hold of these people on a regular basis, or you're just sending resumes out or you're sending out applications and not following up, you're not going to hear back. And it's going to be really hard for you to land the amount of work that you need to have to take this full time or to make a difference in your life. So being persistent, and I'll even say consistent, is really important. Make sure you follow up. All right, the 7th biggest mistake that people make when they're new is they don't use text editing software. And I'm not talking about spell check. Spell check's great, but it's not going to catch everything. I don't care how good of a writer you are. you are going to make mistakes. You are going to leave out commas. You are going to misspell the same words. I can tell you that I can't spell restaurant or guarantee to save my life, and I need something to catch that. Luckily, spell check does it, but I need more than that, because that's not the only mistake I routinely make. You need to have some software that you can trust that's going to help you catch your errors, help you check your tone, make sure that the sentences aren't too long, too wordy, or too confusing. You need more than spell check. My suggestion, always at a minimum, is Grammarly. Grammarly is a great tool to use because it will catch a lot of your mistakes. It doesn't catch all of them, but it catches the majority of them. Catches more than spell check does. It helps you with pointing out long sentences, repetitive sentences. If you use the word incorrectly, if it's not the right word for the sentence. Also, if things are confusing, it points out all of these things. It also helps you check your tone. Sometimes you might come off a little boring, a little dry, and you need to go ahead and change a couple of things around and be a little bit more spunky and a little funnier, and Grammarly will help you do that. It's really hard to do a lot of that on your own when you're new, so I like to go ahead and turn that over to Grammarly. I still do it now, years and years later. It's a big help. All right, the 8th biggest mistake. Sometimes we take things too personally. Yeah, legitimately, people will take criticism too seriously. And that's an issue with a freelance writer because, number one, you're working for a ton of clients. Those clients may have clients of their own who they've given them feedback and they don't like it. Or the reality is that you're putting your work out on the internet in front of millions of people's eyes. And we all know that there are tons of people out there who just want to see the world burn, and they will make fun of or pick on or just nitpick anything they can. And if you take that seriously, if your skin is too thin, you will not be able to be a freelance writer. The other thing is that sometimes editors aren't that nice, and this can be really hard to deal with. I dealt with this myself in the beginning. Sometimes editors are absolute dicks, and it's because they need to prove to their client that they are the best editor in the world. So what they do is they cut you down and make you look like crap. So basically, their only way to prove their worth is to cut your article apart and show the actual client how bad it was. And that doesn't really set the relationship off on a good note. But what I'm going to tell you is, don't take it personally. Editors come and go. You will learn to deal with them. You will, at some point, you will meet them on a common thread in life, and in an email, you'll become like acquaintances or friends. Very rarely have I dealt with one editor who I could not stand. I've dealt with a lot of editors I didn't like at first, but they all basically became friends, except for one. She was an awful person, but beyond that, they were all pretty good. So don't take it too seriously. Don't take trolls too seriously. Don't take editors too seriously. Don't have thin skin. You're doing great. Don't worry about what other people say. Make sure the client is happy and you're good to go. All right, number 9. Let's go number 9. You offer too many services in the beginning. I mean, we all do it. We all think we can take all the work in the world, and we just want to go ahead and offer every single service that we can. We want to do landing pages. We want to do blog posts. We want to do social media posts. We want to do email marketing. We want to do just about everything that we can because we think the more services we offer, the busier we'll be. It's a bad move. It's a mistake. You need to get good at one or two things. I would suggest one, but I understand getting bored with one type of content could be a problem for you, so maybe two things. You can't just go ahead and offer every single service. You need to dial in the way that you write blogs. I suggest you start there. You need to dial in the way that you write emails. You need to get better at those things. You need to send them to editors. Editors need to send them back. You need to send them to clients. You need to get the data back from the clients. You need to understand what's working and what's not. In the beginning, if you go ahead and you just take this scattergun approach where you try to take on as many types of articles or as many types of writing activity as possible, you are not getting better at any of them. So my suggestion is, don't go out there making a whole bunch of claims that you are the best at this or the best at that. Choose one or two things to get the best at, to become the best at. And obviously, video is not what I'm the best at, but become the best at those things and then branch out. Number 10, This one is important. So in the beginning, we all have a tendency, like I said earlier, to offer a ton of services. We also have a tendency to try to take on every single project we can. And there are projects in the beginning that are worth skipping. I know you're trying to build a resume. I know you're trying to build a portfolio. I know that you think that the more work you can do in the beginning, the better. And to a degree, that may be true, but there are definitely projects that are going to send up red flags and you need to stay away from them. Here are some red flags that you should look out for. Number one, if your client wants you to pitch everything. First off, you don't have the time to pitch everything. Second, you probably have other clients that deserve that pitch more, especially if you've been working with them longer or they're paying you more. You can't just go ahead and pitch everything to one client. So that's a red flag. Number two, obviously, if they don't pay you enough, if they tell you that, hey, I'll pay you more in a couple of months, I can't really pay you right now, but if you stick with me, that's a red flag. If they're not giving you the byline, you need to have your name on the article. If it's not in the beginning, that article means bupkis to you because you can't even put it in your portfolio. People aren't even going to believe that you wrote it if you don't have any other work that even sounds like it. So if you're looking to build a portfolio but they're not giving you the byline, skip. You don't need to be there. Other red flags could be if they're not giving you a content outline or at least some serious direction for you to go on, and then they want to bounce the article back and forth a bunch of times. Every time that they bounce it back to you, it's your time and your time is worth money. That's not great. Also, if they keep changing the style, if they keep changing the way they want you to write, if they think that this is like, if they want you to be funny in one article and then like, oh, that didn't work, I want you to be serious here, that's not going to work. And it gets really annoying because at some point, you just need to know what style the client wants and you want to run with it. Also, and I know this one's going to be hard for me to tell you, this is a serious red flag and it's your own red flag. If the article is going to take too much research, and they're not paying you for that, you got to stay away from it. I don't care how good of an article you think you're going to write. If it takes too much research, it's going to take too much of your time and you're not going to get paid fairly for it. So please stay away from those. Like I said, there are projects in the beginning that are absolutely worth avoiding, and those are some of them. One red flag doesn't necessarily mean you should stay away either, but if there's two, if there's three, look, there's other clients out there, I promise. Stay away from them, go build your portfolio somewhere else, or spend that time writing on your own blog because chances are that's going to be better quality result and less frustrating in the end. In the same vein that we've been in for the last few mistakes, this is number 11, over-promising and missing deadlines. Absolute mistake, not something you want to do. We want to take on as much work as possible, and we don't in the beginning always know the best way to schedule and manage our time. It could be that you think that you have it all squared away, but then one thing goes wrong and your computer shut down for the day, your internet dropped. I actually had, believe it or not, I had a truck drive through power lines next to my house one day, took down all the power on the street and ripped some of the power lines off the side of my house. And guess what? I couldn't write that day. You know, these things, this is the stuff that happens. And if you nail your schedule down to the minute and one of these mistakes happens, it's going to push your schedule out. You still have to do the same amount of work. You just have to do it in less time now. So guess what? You're probably going to be late on something. You need to understand how to manage your time, how to make sure that you're taking enough work so you're busy, but not so much work that you're going to be late. Also, it's not even just about being late, it's about your reputation. If you have a reputation for being late, it's not a good look for you. All right, the 12th mistake. This one's kind of strange, and you might not see it from the inside until you've been there. So here's the deal. Number 12, not talking to other freelancers. You should be talking to other freelancers. You should be networking. You should be talking to them and understanding how work is for them. You should be seeing if they're busy, explaining how you're doing things, take advice from them, give advice if they need it. These are all things that are important. We are often, as freelance writers, in our own offices, in our homes, completely isolated from anybody other than our client. And because of that, we don't even think to reach out to other people. And it's just, we're just isolated. We're like islands. If you can come up with a community of other freelance writers, or even just one or two other content creation people, it's so much better to be able to bounce ideas off of them, ask them what's working, share your knowledge, and really give back to the community that you're coming from. So I have to tell you, you definitely want to go ahead and connect with other freelance writers and content creators. That way you have some other voices out there that can tell you, hey, I understand what you're doing, but that sucks. Or, hey, I would love to know more about how you did that. That's great. These are just bullshit examples I'm coming off of the top of my head. But I'm just telling you, you definitely want to go ahead and have somebody to bounce ideas off of and talk to about Google updates and algorithms and, SEO techniques and clients that suck, or you're too busy and you need to hand work off. You need to have a freelance writer that you trust to hand the work to. These are all very important. Definitely want to build a network of other writers. All right, number 13. So let's say that we are having a banner first year. We're busy, we're making plenty of money, and we're just constantly working. Guess what we're doing? We are getting bogged down in work and not getting better at our skills. This happens your first year, your second year, your fifth year. It's going to continue happening. Freelance writers, we only get paid when we work, so it's very difficult for us to stop working and learn new skills. But it's so important. We, if anything, over the last couple of years have recognized that the internet is changing constantly. We have gone through massive algorithm updates. We've gone through massive changes because of the pandemic. Now we have AI breathing down our necks and changing the way we do everything on the internet. And if we aren't learning new skills or learning to adapt, we are going to be just displaced by new technology, new methods, new techniques, and these are things that we have to learn. Also, you may be a content writer now, but you may decide that copywriting is where your heart is. And if you're not learning new skills, if you're not learning how to write better copy, if you're not getting better at your craft because you're bogged down in work, then you don't have a future in this career. So I would suggest that you set aside some time every week to get a little better, do a course, or read a book about whatever you're into. If it's, there's so many copywriting books out there. You need to just go ahead and spend some time, invest some time in yourself learning. Also, there's a whole bunch of conventions. Those might become more and more important because of AI and how we have to adapt to it. So I would suggest, no matter what you do, don't get bogged down in work. I don't care how busy you are, how busy your schedule is, and forget to adapt and get better at your craft. All right, so here's the bonus mistake that I suggested you wait for. The mistake is not believing that you're qualified. I have to tell you, when you start considering becoming a writer, you question yourself. You say, hey, I don't know if I can do it. I remember I used to read other writers' pieces and be like, I can't write that well. And, you just question yourself. Let me tell you something. The average American, embarrassingly, reads at an 8th grade level. So if you can write at an 8th grade level and you have some life experience, you are qualified to do this. And so I'm just telling you that, believe in yourself, believe that you can do it, believe that you have the ability to write about something that you've experienced through work, if it's volunteer work, if it is a career or hobby that you love. Listen, you are qualified to do it, so believe in it. You will get somebody to pay you to write about it. So believe in yourself, take a leap. I promise you, this is the best side hustle that you could start. I'll actually check out this video here if you want to learn why, and just go with it, man, because you can do it. I promise. All right. And on that note, I will see you guys on the next one.